Deep in a small area of the cloud forests of the Mexican state of Oaxaca, secretive groves are tended by Mazatec people whose ancestors have inhabited the land for centuries. There they grow a plant unlike any other, a plant exclusive to their part of the world, a plant which contains the most potent naturally occurring psychedelic on the planet, Salvia Divinorum. The Mazatec people have used salvia for at least a century, as Jean Bassett Johnson recorded its use in their shamanic practices as early as 1939, and it was not new to them then. They use it medicinally to treat things like rheumatism and spiritually for divination, specifically to invoke the Virgin Mary or Mary the Shepherdess. They chew large rolls of salvia leaves called quids, which produce light psychoactive effects, which they describe as timid like a deer. Eventually, an American named Daniel Siebert began investigating Salvia Divinorum's psychedelic effects and found that he was able to extract from it a substance which he named Salvinorin A. Upon vaporizing a minute dose of this substance, he was nearly instantly propelled into a psychedelic experience so strong as to be described as out of body. This demonstrated to him that Salvinorin A was salvia's primary psychoactive ingredient beyond a shadow of a doubt. This discovery allowed American enthusiasts to extract Salvinorin A and reapply a larger amount to a smaller amount of leaves, creating what has now become commercially available salvia extract, labeled for its Salvinorin A quantity, sometimes going as far as 100 times the amount of Salvinorin A in plain leaf or beyond, or even to 400 times, making pure Salvinorin A. Because of this product's high availability and potency when compared to fresh leaves, it has become the preferred way to take salvia in the United States. This presentation will primarily investigate this route of administration, though its findings are also applicable to other routes of administration to varying extents. To understand Salvia Divinorum's effect, we must understand the kappa-opioid receptors. This is because Salvinorin A's psychedelic action is truly unlike any other. Salvinorin A potently and selectively agonizes kappa-opioid receptors and has no action at 5-HT2A receptors, which psychedelics normally activate. The kappa-opioid receptors have three primary functions. Firstly, they are involved in pain management. Their activation reduces pain by fighting the inflammation which underlies it. This is why the Mazatec use it to treat inflammatory rheumatism. Secondly, they are involved in mood regulation. Specifically, they serve as the anti-reward counterbalance to the rewarding dopamine, being described by Viren Carlson as encoding dysphoria and limiting motivation. Lastly, they are involved in the process of consciousness, though there is debate as to just how. They are involved in the function of the claustrum, which Crick and Koch theorized to be involved in the coordination of sensory inputs into a coherent reality. However, Chow et al. Found that damage to the claustrum correlated with difficulty regaining consciousness, but not difficulty maintaining it, suggesting that Crick and Koch's theory is incorrect. This presentation will investigate Salvia Divinorum's mechanism of action with respect to the implications of both perspectives. Now that we've clarified the function of kappa-opioid receptors, we must clarify the subjective effects of Salvia Divinorum before we can meaningfully connect them. What exactly does one mean by an out-of-body trip? While every trip is unique, it is commonly reported that there is a sensation of being unzipped, in which one is pulled apart by zipper-like tears in their reality or perception. Then there is the perception of breaking through reality through these zippers and entering a number of parallel universes, in which it is not uncommon to join a parade of incorporeal beings or become an inanimate object. Now that we understand the kappa-opioid receptors and salvia's subjective effects, we can analyze two potential ways of understanding Salvia Divinorum's effects. Speaking more generally now of experiences Addy et al. Found to be commonly reported across 30 individuals' self-administrations of Salvia Divinorum in a research setting, it begins with interoceptive or tactile phenomena in which one feels that one is being pushed, pulled, grabbed, or that their sense of gravity has changed. This can be understood as a disruption of the claustrum's coordination of sensory data to do with movement and position, or as the result of stimulation of kappa-opioid receptors in the movement center of the brain, the putamen. These effects begin rapidly because of the speed with which smoke substances reach the brain. Next, users begin to see and hear people or beings and places which were not present in their previous environment. To understand these effects, we must understand that Salvinorin A's activation of kappa-opioid receptors triggers a cascade of activations in areas which are functionally and anatomically connected to activated areas. These auditory and visual hallucinations can be understood as the result of a disruption of the claustrum's coordination of auditory and visual information, or as being caused by cascading activations in the auditory and sensory cortices. The perception of beings is likely caused by cascading activations in social areas of the frontal lobe and prefrontal cortex. Following this, users lose the ability to distinguish reality from fantasy, themselves from their environment, and themselves as human beings. This is likely also the result of frontal lobe and prefrontal cortical stimulation. This is what allows people to become objects, leave their body, etc. The user's mood can be altered positively or negatively on a dose-dependent basis. Lower doses appear to cause a cascading activation in the amygdala, which positively influences mood, while higher doses tend to affect the kappa-opioid receptors in the nucleus accumbens, which create dysphoria and feelings described as anti-rewarding. Lastly, users return from this dissociation quickly and note its intensity and uniqueness. The hallucination's intensity and uniqueness as compared to other psychedelics is caused by salvinorin A's potency and selectivity for kappa-opioid receptors. The short duration is down to route of administration and does not apply in the case of chewing. If it remains legal, salvinorin A may go on to be used to create novel, non-addictive pain medications as well as to treat major depressive disorder and anxiety disorders. Lastly, it will continue to help us to investigate the nature of our conscious environment. Thank you for watching, and thank you, Salvinorin A.